Then spoke Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. Verse 14, and there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man. For the Lord fought for Israel. Praise God. And I'm trying to tell you that if you've got a heart like Joshua, not perfection, because nobody's perfect.
That's right.
There are people that think they're perfect in the church, but they're sadly mistaken. And they're deceived by the enemy. But if you've got a heart that loves God, and I promise you, He knows, He searches the intents of your heart. And you cry out to Him, He hearkens unto your cry. I promise you, I've been there. Now, I've never had it stop. The sun actually is the rotation of the earth. For the sun to stand still, the rotation of the earth had to come to a standstill. And it had to be slowly, though. Because if it would come to a standstill too fast, you got the tectonic plates that would have been messed up. You know what I mean? But we got the creator of the universe we're thinking about now. It's not science, it's not man and his wisdom trying to stop the earth. It's the creator of the universe that keeps the gravity in place. He's the one that has slowly stopped the rotation of the earth. This is amazing. Because a lot of people don't believe that. There's no way. And it would not affect the tectonic plates, but it would affect the atmosphere. Because in the atmosphere, there's certain things that, say like the lava in volcanoes, the magma, that right there is connected to the atmosphere. So it could cause volcanoes and things like that. However, He did it about a day for Joshua. He hearkened to Joshua's cry, and Joshua was not a perfect man. You know what he did? You see, in this story, he made an alliance with the Gibeonites. Now, they came and they brought food and they brought other things to come together in an alliance with Joshua because they were scared of him. Because they'd heard what he did, what God did to Jericho and Ai. And I'm talking about Ai, these were big nations. So they were saying, okay, this man has God on his side, so we need to make an alliance with him. But they had no, in their heart, they knew they was not going to serve Jehovah God. There's nothing in them that wanted to serve God at all. But they wanted Joshua off their back. So they made an unholy alliance, and Joshua forgot to pray about it. He forgot to pray about making an alliance with the Gibeonites. Well, guess what? When the other kings in the surrounding area of Canaan found out that they had done this, they got angry. And they're considered the Amorites. So 5 kings come together in an alliance to destroy the Gibeonites. You see what I'm saying? And so the Gibeonites said, okay, we done made a covenant with Joshua. We're going to call on Joshua and get him to help us. That's why they wound up in this situation, surrounded by the Amorites, excuse me. There's all kind of ice in there. But the Amorites, that's how they wound up in this situation. Now, naturally, in our natural mind, we say, okay, I didn't pray about this, so God's not going to be with me in this unholy alliance. He aligned himself with a people without praying first. He made a vow, and now he's got to honor that vow to protect these people. So here he is. He don't know it yet, but they're going to deceive him later on. But God still, even in his error, still hearkened unto his cry. Why? Because of the love in his heart for God. We all make mistakes. Have you not made a mistake in your life? Have you not connected yourself with somebody or some organization or something that was not good and you didn't know it at the time, like Joshua did not know this? He forgot to pray. That was his error. And sometimes we jump into things forgetting to pray about the certain position that we're supposed to be in. Have you done this? Some people marry, and they get married thinking it's of God, and they think that they married the right person. And then something happens, and my goodness, they think, well, I done failed this, I'm in divorce, God's not really with me no more, He's not hearing my prayers, He's not answering one. That ain't got nothing to do with it. We all make mistakes. But God still hearkens to your call. Why? Because your faith is in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
He's the one that made the perfect decision. He's the one that's the perfect sacrifice, not you.
Amen.
But praise God for the Lord's mercy and compassion and the justification by faith. I'm telling you, He hearkened to Joshua here. He also pounded these people with hailstones. I happen to believe if He did, when He did stop the rotation of the earth, that He did cause volcanoes because they were around mountainous areas. Matter of fact, the Amorites started running as they started getting beat by God more than they got beat by Joshua. I mean, you got hailstones beating them to death, and they're running trying to get up in the hills and trying to hide and waiting on the dark to come. That's why Joshua said, okay, son, stay still. Because if it goes down and they get to hide in them old canyons up in there and them valleys, then we're going to lose them. And then they're going to come back after us later on. You see, and sneak back up on us. So he asked the Lord to do this, and the Lord did this. I'm telling you, this was a greater miracle than the parting of the Red Sea. No?
Yeah.
Then this is something totally different. And people say, there's no way. That's one of them fables. Or that's just a mystic. Let me tell you, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. NASA, within the last 10 years, we're looking for a way to calculate what it's going to be like. Well, where the positions of the sun, the moon, and certain stars are going to be in the next 100 years to 1,000 years. Because they're sending up satellites and they don't want them bumping into each other on rotation. So they feed this information into a computer. And guess what happens? They come up a day short. Now this says about a day, but they actually come up 24 hours short. And so they're trying to figure out how. How are we short? Something's got to be wrong. But how? One of them happened to be a Christian, and he remembered in Sunday school something about God, you know, staying the day, staying the sun in the sky, and stopping that day for Joshua. So he researched it, went back to the Bible, and found out, hey, here it is. But they were still short, because it was just like 23 hours, and I want to say 23 hours and 20 minutes, or something like that. So it's still 40 minutes short. So they're trying to figure this out. But guess what? If y'all know the Bible, and I'll go to it in a minute, you'll know that Hezekiah, when Hezekiah was told he was going to die, and Isaiah walked in there and said, get your stuff in order, get your affairs in order, you're going to die. What did he do? He turned his face to the wall, and he cried unto God, and God what? Hearkened unto his cry. And he said, well, what will be the sign that I will know that I will be healed of the Lord? And he said, well, you know, it'd be an easy thing for the sundial to go up because time goes forward. He said, but let the sun